Screen time has drastically changed over the last 50 years. It went from this to this. In 1970, the average age that a kid would engage regularly with media was 4 years old. Today, it's 4 months. So what are the dangers and what can we do to actually find that balance? Estimates suggest that children under the age of 2 engage in more than 3 hours of screen time per day. The amount of time has nearly doubled in the past 2 decades. So here is your official trigger warning. If you don't want to know about the effects of excessive screen time on your toddlers, now is probably a good time to click away. Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, who is this random person telling us about kids and screen time? I'm in a similar boat as you guys as well. I have 3 kids of my own, and I'm also trying to learn about all of this stuff. So this process has definitely been eye-opening, to say the least. Those of you who are brave enough to continue watching, you're probably right if you figured that screen time, any screen time for kids under 2, is, to put it mildly, very, very not good. Studies have shown that excessive exposure to screens can have some seriously negative effects on kids. Too much screen time has been linked to a whole inventory of issues: obesity, behavioral problems, sleep irregularities, poor academic performance, as well as impacting cognitive, language, and social emotional development. Increased screen exposure between 6 and 18 months has also been linked to emotional reactivity and aggression. Yikes. Now, besides the potential behavioral problems, the problem is also the opportunity cost. When your kid is in front of a screen, they're not doing something else like connecting with nature, which we understand has benefits for mental health and overall well-being. And to make this really hit home, the average American child has only 4 to 7 minutes of outdoor free play each day. So when your mom yelled at you to turn off the TV and go outside, she was definitely on to something. This is Aska. She has a 2-year-old, she works from home, no childcare, and does absolutely no screens. But they didn't start that way.
We would watch TV when she was little, and I think the first time I had really started thinking about it when she learned to sit, and she would, if the TV was on, she'd always look at it and then just ignore everything else. I also went back to work, so I really wanted to have a system in place where she was able to play.
For Aska, focusing on independent play made all the difference.
I started learning more about independent play and what the kind of play setup should be for kids. And what their day should look like, unstructured time, all the benefits around it. So I really wanted to put that in place, and to make that happen and being able to work while she was still at home, I didn't really want to be relying on screens. So we decided to try this out, and then now we're at, I think, 10 months of no screens, and I would say it's only gotten easier.
So how much should babies and toddlers actually be engaging with devices? Well, we took it to the experts. This is Dr. Khan, a child psychologist, and he gives us the lowdown on the guidelines.
The American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry guidelines, both recommend that from birth until a year and a half, that there's no screen time actually. That, of course, does not include any video chatting. When it comes to loved ones trying to interact, especially those that are not living in the same household, wanting to interact with the infant, that's perfectly fine.
One of the main reasons that guidelines suggest no screen time before 18 months is that developmentally, before that age, infants and toddlers have trouble transferring learning from 2D, the screen, to 3D, real life. Experts suggest that one-on-one time is crucial to development. Language in particular is learned in the early stages of life, mostly from interactions with the adults that surround the child. So the more frequent and high quality these exchanges are, the bigger the impact on language development. As they grow from babies to toddlers, some parents may wish to slowly start introducing screen time.
from the ages of 2 to 5, they recommend that if it's non-educational screen time, that you limit that to just 1 hour per weekday, and then on the weekends, limit the non-educational programming to 3 hours. And it's often recommended that the caregiver is present with the child, and not just present passively sitting there while the child is watching whatever they're enjoying, but actually engaging with them, talking about what they're actually seeing, what they're watching on TV.
Most of all, screens are not recommended to be used as pacifiers, babysitters, to stop tantrums, or as a reward. Cue the collective gulps. Which begs the question, what does Asuka do when she needs to get stuff done, when it's meltdown city and you need a moment?
So the biggest challenge for me with screen time is finding ways to regulate myself in those hard moments. There are days where it gets super hard, but I think that's when the ways that we've found to reset really help. So the most common ways that we reset are like outdoor time is always great. I also have a few things that I keep reserved for when we are having those hard moments. So those are not always available to her. They're not part of the toy rotation. They're just things we pull out when we need it.
Asuka says that because they no longer rely on screens during these moments, they have found new ways to manage. Now, limits are probably something that you've already thought about, but it's also important what content your child is watching. Besides the obvious contrast in colors and images, the pace of the show is also much faster. Check out this video from TikTok user David Kopp, who counts the scene changes in Cocomelon.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Now let's apply this exercise to an older show like Franklin.
Franklin was never in a hurry.
Hurry up, Franklin. Today is no day to dawdle.
Don't worry, Mom. There's no way I'm going to be late for Bear's birthday party.
Franklin's scene changes range from an average of 4 to 8 seconds. The shortest one we found in the episode we watched was 2 seconds. While there is still a ton of research that needs to be done on how this could be impacting kids, their development, and mental health, a study in the American Academy of Pediatrics considered the effects that fast-paced television may be having on 4-year-olds. The result? They found that kids who watched fast-paced TV, even just 9 minutes of it, had immediate negative effects on executive function, things like self-regulation and working memory. But there are also studies out there that show no effects on the child. I'd say the jury is still out on this one. In an ideal world, we would all follow these guidelines and suggestions, but let's be honest, some days parenting is just survival. When it comes to limits and content, Dr. Khan suggests it's all about your kid and how they respond.
Parents should be watching out for is how their children are responding to the screen time that they have. Are they developing sleep issues? Are they having academic problems? Struggling in reading, getting poor grades in school? Are they getting reports from teachers that their child is unable to focus in class? Now, screen time does not directly cause ADHD or these problems, but it can exacerbate certain issues when it comes to these things.
Now, part of the reason that it's so difficult to manage kids' screen time is that it means managing our own screen time as grown-ups. And adults have a serious addiction to screens. Since the pandemic, screen time has increased by upwards of 60 to 80%. Adults on average spend about 7 hours a day, or about 44% of their waking hours staring into screens. 3 hours and 46 minutes of that, on average, is basking in the glow of our smartphones. So if we as grown-ups can barely tear ourselves away from our devices, how are we expected to keep our kids in check? At this point, you may be throwing up your hands and saying, "It's too late, my kids are already a member of the cult of Blippi." And I'm here to tell you that it's never too late to start making changes to your kids' screen time habits. The first step is to control your own screen time, especially in front of your kids. Come on, guys. Anyone who has tiny tots around knows that they love to copy grown-up things we do. Monitoring and setting rules for your toddler's screen time is essential to preventing these scary effects on their development and behavior. Dr. Khan says his #1 tip he tells all the parents of his patients is to lose the technology an hour before bed.
If they're being exposed to some of these electronic devices right before bedtime, they might not be getting the restful sleep that you think that they are. And this in turn can lead to a lot of issues when they're awake. Behavioral issues, irritability, mood symptoms like depression and anxiety, as well as learning difficulties when it comes to attending school.
For very little ones, whenever possible, make screen time an activity that connects you with your child. Anyone who has spent any amount of time with Miss Rachel knows some shows can be super engaging. You ever listen to her? Super catchy. And remember, face-to-face time with toddlers, especially from their primary caregivers, is invaluable in promoting social emotional competence. You can also encourage active screen time, where your kids will stretch or exercise while watching their favorite TV shows. Or better yet, find apps that allow kids to engage with their surrounding outdoors. Despite everything I've just said about the horrors of screen time, it's not all doom and gloom. Studies have shown that ebooks and apps that teach reading may actually improve the reading and creative thinking skills of young kids. High-quality educational content starting from the age of 2 can actually support language and cognitive development, promote positive racial attitudes, and encourage imaginative play. Other studies have shown that there is a positive correlation between co-watching with a caregiver and their overall language development, especially when you're able to engage with your child about the content. So sit down, watch something educational, and use your devices as a jumping off point for engagement. And when in doubt, remember what your mom always said. Turn off that TV and get the heck outside. My name is Tasif Hussain. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you like this video, you're really gonna like this one where drones fight fires, or this other one that YouTube thinks you're gonna like.